This is Caring for Kids on News Talk 760 WJR, presented by the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation. And here's your host, President and CEO of the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation, Larry Burns.
Thanks, Mark. Hello, and welcome to Caring for Kids. Tonight we're going to discuss a variety of issues concerning the health and wellness of children locally, regionally, and nationally. We'll be joined first by Rishi, Moudgil, founding director of Greenlight Fund Detroit, and then Dr. Krista Clancy and Anna Patronik of the University Pediatricians Autism Center, and Jim Hughes, executive director of Catch, Charity for Children. It's all coming up next on Caring for Kids, here on the great voice of the Great Lakes, News Talk 760 WJR.
It's Caring for Kids with Larry Burns.
Welcome back, everybody. Larry Burns here, Caring for Kids. Rishi Moudgil received his bachelor's and master's degrees in business administration and educational studies from the University of Michigan. He later became the founder and managing director of U of M Center for Social Impact at the Ross School of Business, and he now serves as the founding executive director of Greenlight Fund, a nonprofit that aims to fill service gaps for impoverished families. Rishi, welcome to Caring for Kids.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Great to have you here, and you and I have known each other a little over a year now.
Yeah.
And I thought it was the right time to have you on Caring for Kids to talk about the great work that you've done, and then a little bit about the future of Greenlight Fund. So, for our listeners that are not familiar with Greenlight Fund, can you tell us a little bit about it and why we feel that it's an important new initiative in Detroit?
Yes, of course. So the Greenlight Fund was developed to really make social investments into proven programs that can reduce poverty in urban areas. And so we're actually part of a national network. Greenlight Fund Detroit was just started about a year ago. Mm-hmm. And we have a couple unique approaches to how we do our work. The first is we create a collective body of folks from across the city to think about and discuss what are urgent needs facing children and families in the city. And so it's really important for us to get a cross-sector view on some of the issues facing the city, from corporations, entrepreneurs, nonprofits, community leaders, philanthropies, etc. So we speak to a lot of folks across the city around what are some of those urgent needs, and also really look at a lot of the data locally. And then we go through a very rigorous process where, after identifying some of our critical needs, we look for the top social impact programs that exist nationally that have had a proven track record of really fighting these issues that we identify. And then we invite them to come to Detroit to see if there will be a fit within our community to make sure that they can operate in a way that complements existing landscape and helps children and families improve their lives.
Excellent. And when I arrived back in Detroit a little over a year ago, it was to my pleasure to find out a little bit more about Greenlight Fund, and delighted to know that our board had decided that this was such an important initiative to invest as well. Yeah. From the foundation, and that really told me a lot about our board, Matt Friedman and Fred Minter, and about their vision of how we can evolve into a more relevant, bigger foundation.
Sure.
And then to get to know you and to be part of this process that you just described has been very enlightening, and it's been encouraging to see the city of Detroit and all the groups that you brought together actually work together, and so that I commend you for. And now, since it is new, there's another program that runs through the police department that has some community confusion. So maybe this is an opportunity to talk about that.
For sure. The Greenlight Fund is different than Project Greenlight, which obviously is a program with our Detroit Police Department We just operate very separately, but obviously we both have green light
in the name.
So we want to be clear that we are separate organizations.
Yes. I know a little bit about having a confusing name. And so anything that we can clarify, we will do that. Along with, as I mentioned, the Children's Hospital Michigan Foundation as an investor in this new initiative, who are some of your other partners?
Well, we've been real lucky to have such a broad well of support across Detroit. I would spend too much time listing everyone, but again, from across sectors, we have some of the foundations that are involved, including Ralph Wilson, Scaleman, corporations including Ford, Lear, Delphi, Strategic Staffing Solutions, community organizations like the United Way, a number of individuals and other organizations that are investors in our program.
Right.
And then, an advisory group that spans community organizations, entrepreneurs in the city, nonprofit leaders, and so it's a pretty deep and broad group of
I should say,
folks.
With that list of investors and advisors, we're talking with Rishi Moudgil, who's the founding executive director of Greenlight Fund here in Detroit. And we're talking about some of the things that are going on with Greenlight. And let's talk a little bit about Rishi. And your role with Greenlight Fund is very closely related to some of your previous professional experience. And can you give us a little bit of background on your journey?
Certainly. Well, I've been here in Southeast Michigan for almost my whole life, and my career spanned multiple sectors, everything from trying to launch businesses to working for management companies, if you will. But I think the work that has really driven me, and I think that makes this a great match for the work we're doing, is around learning, is around social impact, is around innovation. And this work really has a little bit of all of those. The need to solve problems, big or small, I think really comes from getting different folks around a table. My career has had a lot of that, where we try to bring folks that come at problems with different points of view, and I think that's just the best way to find the best solution to things, because once you get folks to agree on something, it makes it pretty powerful.
Excellent. Great background. So I know Greenlight has made an important investment recently, and our listeners want to know about that. So can you tell us what you can about that first investment?
Of course. So we're really proud that just recently we announced we're bringing the national organization Center for Employment Opportunities to Detroit. And one of those reasons is they have a proven track record of working with folks that are leaving prison, formerly incarcerated, coming back to society and looking for work and looking for an opportunity to rebuild in their communities and in their families. And CEO has a really unique model where they've, in other cities, proven to reduce recidivism rates by a significant percentage, have had a 3x return on investment to the community. And most importantly, their fit here in our local landscape makes a lot of sense, because what they're doing is within a short period of time, when folks leave the system, they're getting them transitional work. And so this immediate opportunity to work, to get paid every day, receive feedback every day. They have these really, I think, unique incentive programs built into their model so that returning citizens can get back on their feet. And that, in turn, strengthens our communities. It strengthens those families and neighborhoods that folks are returning to. It allows them to create that path to self-sufficiency. And then CEO also works with community partners to provide additional wraparound services and place folks in long-term jobs, and stays with them for over a year after they place them in this work.
Great. And I know during the process, one of the things that really appealed to me as the CEO of the Children's Hospital Michigan Foundation was the impact, and you mentioned it, that this will have on families.
That's correct.
And children.
That's correct.
Having a mom or a dad home and working and getting their life back together and keeping the family together. So it really has an impact far beyond just the individual, but the family. So
exactly.
That's something that we're very supportive of. So please keep us informed.
Will do.
And I will look forward to staying involved. and then we'll have you back and we'll talk more about not only this first investment, but other investments in the future.
No, appreciate your support and all the work everyone's been doing to contribute to improving our children and families here.
Yeah, absolutely. And Detroit is in a renaissance period, and renaissance with families is probably more important than anything. So thank you, Rishi.
Thank you.
That was Founding Executive Director of Greenlight Fund, Rishi Moudgil. And coming up next, we're going to hear from two ladies, Dr. Krista Clancy and Ann Patronik of the University Pediatricians Autism Center. When Caring for Kids continues right here on the great voice of the Great Lakes, News Talk 760 WJR.
Welcome back to Caring for Kids on WJR, presented by the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation.
Welcome back, everybody. Larry Burns here, Caring for Kids. In the studio, I have two ladies. I'm going to introduce them right now. We have Dr. Krista Clancy. She's the program director at the University Pediatricians Autism Center. Krista's role has been to develop applied behavior analysis services and to develop curriculums for related programs at Wayne State University and Oakland University, two fine places. Dr. Clancy earned her bachelor's degree from Western Michigan University, double majoring in psychology and sociology, and her master's degree from Eastern Michigan. We got them all covered in this interview, in clinical behavioral psychology, and her doctorate degree in educational psychology. That's a lot. So welcome, Krista.
Thank you.
And Ann Patronik. Ann is the regional manager at the University Pediatricians Autism Center. Her field of expertise include disability awareness training, social services, and youth development. All things really important to us. And she earned her bachelor's degree from the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse, majoring in therapeutic recreation. Ladies, welcome to Caring for Kids.
Thank you. Thanks.
We're delighted that you're here. We have we don't have Central Michigan covered in your bio, but I'm a Central grad, so is Jennifer, so we're covered. And so, Krista, tell us about University Pediatricians Autism Center. I know autism is something that is very prevalent, and people and our listeners are very interested, and so they want to know more about what University Pediatricians is doing.
Sure. So, University Pediatricians Autism Center is a local autism center. We have sites at three sites, one in Detroit, one in Novi, and one in Clinton Township. We work closely with a hospital, with Children's Hospital Michigan and DMC. So one of the benefits of having services with us is we get to co-collaborate with a lot of the docs there, which autism is a fairly complex medical disorder. Right. So it's nice to be able to, have a lot of insight from the different docs and the different programs, whether it's neurology or genetics or whatnot. We also work closely with Wayne State University. So I am a professor and oversee the behavior analytic training program there. So we have our services, we have our collaboration with the medical group, and then we also have a lot of training that goes on at our facility that kind of makes us a little bit different from some of the other autism programs that are local.
Sure, and that connection with Children's Hospital of Michigan is extremely important. As you mentioned, the subspecialists that they have there on the medical side, integrating care based with neurology or some other service, I think is critical to what any ongoing chronic behavior needs. So I think that sort of puts you in a category almost by yourself as it relates to Children's Hospital.
Yeah, certainly. We've been doing a lot of work with the residents and the School of Medicine. We do a lot of training with their residents as well as being able to collaborate with them. We've had about 350 program residents, graduate students, different people kind of coming through from the hospital to our program. They get to see kids with autism. They get to learn a little bit more about the diagnosis and what the spectrum really looks like, answer questions about therapy and diagnosis, and then at the same time, we get to really learn from them and what their expertise are. So it's a really nice collaboration between it. Mm-hmm.
And your three locations, Novi and then Macomb County and then downtown Detroit, really helps people in southeastern Michigan so that you're not having to go too far from home.
Yes.
And so I think that really is helpful too. So Ann, tell us a little bit about your background, and I know you're relatively new to the centers, and so our listeners want to know about you.
Sure. So I've been at UPAC for about 4 months now, but I think an interesting background. I began working in therapeutic recreation. I was supporting kids with disabilities in different recreation activities, and set up a program kind of helping recreation providers manage programs to include kids with disabilities, and that was in the 80s, so it was kind of on the cutting edge. Then I got married, we had kids, I stayed home, and lo and behold, my son has autism.
Okay.
And so I stayed home for several years, kind of went through that whole piece of really understanding the nuts and bolts from a family perspective. And my son is 24 now, so he was kind of at that cutting edge of when diagnosis was, when the more and more kids were getting diagnosed.
Right.
So he didn't have all the opportunities that children who are diagnosed today have. So I've learned a lot in that respect.
Sure.
And then I went back to work after being home for 10 years, and worked in setting up programs to really support people with autism, again, in a recreation setting at the Jewish Community Center. And then kind of my area of expertise is really the operating piece. So I don't have a clinical background at UPAC. I'm really managing the operational piece of the program. And so I think working with families and helping them get into services, I really see the value of customer service and know what families are looking for and what they need. So that's really kind of what I bring.
Yeah, and the operational side is extremely important. I know, because that's what I primarily do for our foundation. We're a nonprofit, as you are, but we're also a business that needs to be operating efficiently and effectively. And I really think you being a mom of an autistic child more than qualifies you for the other added things that you do. So I'm sure that everybody's very happy that you've joined them. So as I mentioned in the introduction, we're talking with Dr. Krista, Clancy, and Ann Patronik from University Pediatricians Autism Centers. We talked a little bit about autism and sort of the prevalence of this disease. Can you tell our listeners, maybe Krista, some of the things that you want our community to know, not only about your services, but about things related to autism that may be new in the last few years? Sure.
So when you're looking at kids with autism, you're really looking at three main areas. You're looking at social skills, communication, and behavior. And I think the biggest thing that's changed in the community is being able to offer services to kids with autism that previously they didn't have the opportunity to get. So not too long ago, right around 2012, there was some legislation that was passed that allowed children with autism to get access to applied behavior analysis, which is an evidence-based procedure. When we provide treatment to children with autism at UPAC, it's based on applied behavior analysis, and we train behavior analysts in the field to really provide services at all levels. So the kids do come to our center sometimes for a lot of hours, and we work on skills that really help with their quality of life. We work on teaching them to better communicate, to better play, to be able to get their needs met. We have all levels of severity. You know, autism is quite a spectrum, and right. Some kids are really severely impacted by the disorder, but some kids are a little bit less so. So we have an individual treatment plan for each of these kids and really try to work on the things that are going to be the most meaningful to them.
And what are your range sort of age of kids that you're seeing?
Well, I would say we're starting to get kids that are younger, much younger. So we've had kids at our center that are 18 months old. We really don't have an age cap, but for the most part, kids get access to the benefit up until either 18 with private insurance or 21 with Medicaid. So we tend to see less of the people who are in those older age groups, but certainly we do have people that have come to our clinic for, anything in between.
Right. And I think, Ann, I think that you're renovating your Detroit office. Is that right?
Yep. We're right in the process right now of painting and getting it's a very professional yet child-friendly environment.
And it's right on Woodward, so it's easy to find. And
right.
We're going to visit the one in Novi and eventually the one in Macomb County as well. So lastly, before we go, I think maybe the most important thing I can ask you, either both or individually, to comment on is if our listeners want to contact you, or if they have questions, they have a grandchild that they think or know is autistic, how can they get a hold of you? What's the best method?
I would say give us a call. Our Novi office handles most of our intakes.
Okay.
So give us a call. We're right in the process right now of rebranding our website and everything. So until we launch that, calling our Novi office is the best way to go. And the number is 248-305-6172.
Okay. One more time.
248-305-6172.
Okay, and we'll put that on our website and our Caring for Kids website, so people can call you. Krista, anything you want our listeners to know before we let you go?
I don't know. We're just a very family-friendly atmosphere. We really try to include the parents and be a collaborative team member with all the other things that are going on. So certainly we want to do the best that we can for kids, and we'd love to have people come to our center. So
excellent. Well, I think hopefully this show will get the word out. And just like the foundation, we want to do what's best for kids as well. So I thank you both for what you're doing. We consider you part of our family, connected to the pediatrician group at Children's Hospital of Michigan, and we'll have you back and let our listeners know how you're doing. So thanks a lot.
Great, thank you.
All righty. That was Krista Clancy and Ann Patronik of the University Pediatricians Autism Center. And coming up next, we're going to hear from Jim Hughes. Jim is the Executive Director of Catch, Charity for Children, and that's when Caring for Kids continues here on the great voice of the Great Lakes, News Talk 760 WJR.
Welcome back to Caring for Kids on WJR. Presented by the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation. Once again, here's Larry Burns.
In studio tonight, we have Jim Hughes. Jim Hughes is the Executive Director of Catch. For 27 years, Jim has been the Executive Director of Catch, which is Caring Athletes Team for Children's and Henry Ford Hospitals, which aims to help improve the quality of life for children suffering from illness or injury at Children's Hospital of Michigan and Henry Ford Hospital in Detroit. He is significantly involved at the Dearborn Divine Child Church and at schools as chairman of the Divine Child Advancement Executive Committee, while also serving as an announcer for the varsity football games. I didn't know that. Jim is a recent inductee to the Journalism Hall of Fame and his alma mater, Central Michigan University. I'm not in that Hall of Fame, although I did graduate from Central Michigan, so I'm very jealous. And he was also named appropriately to the Catch Hall of Fame. Jim, welcome to Caring for Kids.
Great to see you, Larry. Thanks for having us.
And in June, I'm going to an event at Divine Child. My cousin Dan Clinton invited me. It's with Mickey Lolich.
Not familiar with that.
Yeah. So
I'll sign up and look for you.
All righty. Divine Child was a great football powerhouse when I was at Austin Catholic Prep in the 70s.
It absolutely was a great, and they've come back quite a bit.
Yeah.
In fact, your cousin was the quarterback at St. Mary's, Redford St. Mary's, and defeated Divine Child, the first loss Divine Child had in their 3-year program.
Really?
Back in the early 60s.
Yeah. Joe Clinton.
Joe Clinton.
Yes. God bless him.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is fun for me to sit here with you because I was around. I wasn't really involved. Rob Jones was involved, but I was around when Catch was created, and you're the first and only executive director.
We actually had one before me for a couple of years, correct.
Oh.
Yeah, so Catch was started in 1987.
Okay.
And it actually formed its full board around 1989, right. And there was a director at the time.
Okay.
And I came on in 1991.
All right. Well, sorry about that for that person, but 27 years, for goodness sake. That's awesome. So most everybody in the WJR family is familiar with Catch, but in case somebody isn't, do you mind spending a few minutes about its origins and the kind of work the organization does?
Would love to. As you said, Catch was founded by Sparky Anderson, the late great manager of the Detroit Tigers, when he was managing the team in 1987. And it's an acronym, Catch is, as you said, for Caring Athletes Team for Children's and Henry Ford Hospitals, but it's more commonly known as Sparky Anderson's Charity for Children.
Right.
The purpose is just to raise money through a series of special fundraising events and an annual giving program at year end to fund items and services that help improve the quality of life for the patients and, by extension, the families at Children's Hospital and Henry Ford Hospital. And we do it through a series of special events. We're special event driven. We have a partner event with the Detroit News in May where we honor 24 outstanding, extraordinary high school seniors from across the state of Michigan in a variety of academic categories. We have a popular and generally sold out golf classic in July. This year we're July 16th at Meadowbrook Country Club.
Yeah. Look forward to that.
Yes. And then we do a party the night before to kind of kick things off with an auction and raffle and stuff. And then our signature event is the Catch Night of Champions in October. And that was really the brainchild of Sparky. I mean, the charity was.
Right.
But this was an event that he wanted to do to not only raise money for the charity, but to recognize people in our community who give back, who represent what Catch does, is raising money and helping kids. And we induct people into what we call the Catch Hall of Fame at that dinner. And gosh, since 1988, when we had our first one, we've got over 90 people in the Catch Hall of Fame.
And all people that not only have done great things for the community, but they're all recognizable names.
Very much so.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun each year to see who you select. Well, when I worked at Children's from 87 to 90, Sparky was the manager of the Tigers. And what he would do is he would bring a player, if not weekly, bi-weekly when they were home, unannounced. He would call my boss, Rob Jones, say, Rob, I'm coming, I'm bringing a player. And it was usually a young player that he was trying to cultivate and mentor on what to do to be a good citizen. And we couldn't have any media. The only thing we could have was pizza. Tom Monahan owned the Tigers at the time. And we could have pizza, and I think it was one of the highlights of his, I don't know about his life, but he was so happy when he did it. And it impressed the young players so much.
That is so true. I mean, you just nailed it. The key thing you said was unannounced.
Right.
When Sparky passed away in 2010, and we were putting together a tribute video for him, we could find very little photographs of him at either hospital, simply because he did it unannounced.
He did it.
He didn't want the fanfare. And he brought the players, and those players today, even today, will tell you that Sparky taught us more than just baseball.
Right.
He taught us the right way to play baseball and how to handle yourself. But bringing kids to the hospital, and so many of these athletes today are still involved. They come out to our golf event, and they'll never forget Sparky and the lessons that he taught him.
It's a little eerie to see. Last year was my first year back, and to see Sparky's brother at the golf outing. He looks a lot like him.
Yeah, it's actually his nephew.
Or his nephew.
His nephew. Right. And he's got the Popeye arms and the white hair and the pronounced chin and the same mannerisms, and he bounces all over the place just like his Uncle Georgie.
Yes, exactly. So we talked a little bit about how Catch started with Sparky and your 27 years. One of the things that I admire the organization, people, not only yourself, Jim Berline, Peter Giannopoulos now, and others, is how you've been able to stay not only relevant but successful in raising money. How you do that?
For us, I mean, you alluded to Jim Berline, our chairman. In the 31 years now, we've had 3 chairmen of the board. Alan Frank, when he was at WDIV, Edsel Ford, who remains involved with the charity, and now Jim Berline. And we've had 2 executive directors during that time. But the key, not only our board leadership, chairmanship, but our board of trustees. In my opinion, they're second to none. We're a unique charity, being special event driven, sports themed, pretty much. But we have a board that they're all in.
Yeah.
When people are nominated and then elected to the board, we sit down with them, Jim Berline and Ian Edsel before, and Alan Frank before that, and we tell them what the expectations are. Give them a little background about the charity. A lot of them have heard about it, and they know going in what the expectations are. And when their term comes up every 3 years, it's hard to ask them to rotate off because they're so engaged. Right. So we reelect them.
Yeah.
They're just outstanding.
As you should. They are. And I'm honored to be an ex officio member based on my job. Can you tell our listeners just a couple examples of the things that the funds go to?
That's the beauty of this charity, is we fund things where there's no other source of funding.
There's no other source.
Right. So the hospitals don't provide it. The insurance doesn't cover. Parents can't afford.
Right.
Couple of examples. We had a 6-year-old patient, actually Children's Hospital did, who was admitted, or actually was the mother of the patient, and she had cardiac issues. Got a call while she's in the hospital that they were shutting off her electricity for non-payment.
Oh, dear.
So the social workers at Children's worked with DTE, got a promissory note. Catch dollars were used to turn the electricity on, which was very important because that child was on a ventilator. And it was running
that was important.
On a battery backup that had about 6 hours left.
Right.
But the catch funds were used to get that turned on. Another one real quick. A patient and mother both had sickle cell disease, living without a furnace for 2 weeks. So the social workers worked with Department of Health and Human Services, was able to get some money, but the balance, which was a pretty significant chunk, about $1,500 from Catch, was used to buy a furnace.
Wow. Those are life-saving in many cases. And there's no other sources of funds for that. There's, as you mentioned, not insurance, not so.
Right. And sometimes, like for prescriptions or whatever, yes, there's insurance, but sometimes there's changes in coverage or lapsed insurance.
Lapsed coverages, yeah. So, and one of the things that I've learned is that since the Children's Hospital of Michigan covers the state of Michigan and beyond, Catch is helping kids from all sorts of parts of the state, not just Detroit and the surrounding area.
That is correct. Primarily southeastern Michigan, but certainly all over the state.
Yeah, so that is, and the Tigers, and as you know, and Sparky, he was all over the state too, particularly in the off season.
That's right.
And so if people want to get involved or they simply want to help, what can they do, or how do they do that?
Well, again, being special event driven, we're always looking for corporate support of our events, sponsorships of the golf event, or just purchasing tickets to come out to the party or the Night of Champions event. If that's not in your strike zone, then we always encourage people to try to get their places of employment involved if they do a community service day. Blue Jean Fridays, for example.
Sure.
Another thing.
Bow Tie Friday.
Bow Tie Friday. There you go. That's for Monday through Friday for you.
Right.
And then, maybe opening day they let their employees wear Tiger gear. Or first Lions or Pistons or Red Wings game of the season, they can wear sports-oriented stuff.
Well, we're going to do that at the foundation. To my knowledge, we haven't done that, but we're going to do that. So, Jim Hughes, thank you very much. You're now our neighbor right down the hall in the Fisher Building.
It's good to have you.
Well, thank you. Hopefully you feel the neighborhood is not gone down.
No, absolutely not.
But we're delighted. The Fisher Building is, as I say, it's on fire in the sense that new things happening all the time with Peter Cummings and the platform. So thanks for all you do for Catch and the kids in our community.
Thank you, Larry.
Appreciate it very much. Yep, it sure is. Stay tuned. I'm going to give you a little bit updates on some events that we have at the foundation when we come back shortly.
It's Caring for Kids with Larry Burns.
Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for listening tonight. I think it was a great show. Rishi, Moudgil, and the things they're doing at Greenlight Fund. in this first investment helping families and individuals returning to hopefully a fruitful life. And then we have our colleagues running the University Pediatricians Autism Center and doing some great things in their location. So check our website if you need their address and phone number, because that will be listed there. And then my good pal Jim Hughes from Catch, serving Sparky Anderson's charity for 27 years, doing wonderful things, and a fellow Chippewa, and I learned that he is in the Hall of Fame in the journalism school there. A couple of events I wanted to mention. On April 28th, the foundation is involved with a concert at City Theater. It's within Hockeytown on Woodward, and that's with Alexander Zonchek. And then he's going to be joined by Javier Colon, the first winner of The Voice, and Alex Bunyan, a wonderful keyboard piano player. So that's a great show. It's in a very small theater, and so tickets are $40. And then there's some VIP tickets as well. And then Derby for Kids on May 5th at the Fabulous Country Club of Detroit. And that's to raise money for pediatric oncology programs at Children's Hospital of Michigan. There'll be mint juleps. They will be betting. There will be great entertainment. We also have Alexander Zonchek and a Motown review right after the race. You can wear your Derby outfits, Derby hats, and so that's May 5th from 4 to 8 p.m. Both of those events you can sign up on our website at chmfoundation.org, chmfoundation.org. Lots going on. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to having you join us next month as we talk more about the health and wellness of children on Caring for Kids right here on the great voice of the Great Lakes. News Talk 760 WJR.
Caring for Kids on WJR has been presented by the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation.